All right, I'd like to welcome you to the Medscope Installer Portal training. This training session will take approximately 1 hour. In the event that you have any questions at all during this particular training session, feel free to ask. There's no question that's a bad question. Any and all questions are welcome. At this time, we're going to go ahead now and proceed and begin. If you have your training package, you can refer to page number 3. To log into the installer portal, you will have to use your username and password. Your username is the very first initial of your first name, and your password is something that will be uniquely identifiable to you. At the conclusion of this training session, your username and password will be emailed to you. Then you'll be able to log into the portal to view the jobs that you have assigned to you. To do that, you're simply going to click on the username field to type in your username. To type in your password, you're going to click on the password field and type in your password, and then simply click on the sign-in button to log into the portal. Does anyone have any questions about the sign-in screen? All right, we'll move on here. Yes, what's your question, sir?
I'm on a Wi-Fi, and when I tap in the screen, my keyboard's not coming up to log in my name.
Okay, sir. This is a non-interactive training session. You will not be able to type anything because you won't get your username and password until the conclusion of the training session.
Okay, thank you.
All right. At this time, as you can see here on your screen, this is the job trip planning screen. The job trip planning screen consists of 4 tabs: all jobs, installations, service, and pickups. Those are the different job types you have. In the search bar, you can search for a consumer by their first and last name. You can search for, in between all the jobs you have assigned to you. You can also sort by the date that the jobs were assigned from oldest to newest and newest to oldest by clicking on the date assigned arrow. You can also view multiple pages by clicking on the page indicator button at the bottom of the screen.
He's on, he can hear you, but you can't hear him, so I'm going to chat you.
The job trip planning screen has 3 functions. The first is that it provides you the ability, if you scroll all the way over to the action button, to print paperwork. Now, you're going to receive paperwork in all the equipment boxes that we send you. Every single time equipment leaves this office, the paperwork will always be attached. So you're always going to have it up front. But in the event that you lose it, if you need an additional copy for your own personal records, or you want to just pull up a copy on the fly, you have the ability to do so through the portal itself and print out extra copies of paperwork. The next function of the job trip planning screen is that you also have the ability to print return labels. In the event that you have to have equipment come back to us, you can print return labels through the portal itself. Now, all postage is prepaid. You don't have to pay any out-of-pocket costs. All you have to do is print out the return label, tape it on any of your equipment return boxes that you have to come back to us, and drop it off at any mailbox, and we'll get the equipment here back at the office. The final function of the job trip planning screen is you have the ability to use the optimal route tool. Now, the optimal route tool is a tool that is optional. You are not required to use it. In the event that you would like to use it, you can. If you have your training packet, you can refer to page number 6, and we'll discuss the optimal route tool. Now, to use the optimal route tool, you can just go ahead and select any one of your customers. So for this particular training session, we'll take Betty White here. You're going to scroll over to the far right to the action button, click on the arrow, click select, and if you scroll to the bottom of the screen here, you'll see that this installer is 19.2 miles away from Betty White. And what the system is currently doing right now is that it's building out this particular route for this particular installer for this particular trip. Now, how the tool works itself is that it's going to optimize the best possible route to get from this installer's home here on Linwood Road to each one of his individual stops home based upon mileage, on whoever is the closest to this particular installer's home, and how to get from point A to each one of the individual stops the most gas efficient way. So what we're going to do here is we're going to select another individual. This time we're going to select Derek Anderson. Scroll to the bottom of the screen, and as you can see, Derek Anderson is actually closer to this particular installer, so he moved up to being the first stop on this particular trip, and Betty White is being the second stop now. Again, we'll scroll up again. This time, we'll select another individual. We'll take Carolyn Colbert here. Scroll down the bottom. Again, as you can see, since Carolyn Colbert is a little further away in New Jersey, she's now the last stop. Betty White is now the second stop, and Derek Anderson is now the first stop on this particular trip. And basically what the system is doing, it's calculating mileage. It calculates from the installer's home to the very first stop's home, which is 2.7 miles, from the very first stop's home, which is Derek Anderson's home, to Betty White's home, which he is 17 miles away from her, and then from Betty White's home to Carolyn Colbert's home, which she is 116 miles away from her. So the optimal route tool is just building out your route to get you from point A to point B, the quickest, most gas efficient rate. Does anyone have any questions thus far about the optimal route tool? All right. One of the other options you have available to you with the optimal route tool is that you have the ability to view where you're going before you get there. Now, this tool is fully functional and operational with all smartphones and computers. To simply do that, all you're going to do is click on the little person icon, drag that to the first stop that you're going to, and release it. What that'll do is it'll give you a direct view of the home that you're going to, so that way you can see it before you get there in the event that you're unfamiliar with where you're going. Does anyone have any questions about the bird's eye view? All right. At this time, we're going to go ahead now and discuss the daily activity report. If you have your training packet, please refer to page number 7. All right. When you're logged into the daily activity report, you automatically are going to be defaulted to today's date, each and every single time. From that point, you have the ability to click on the edit button where it says, please select the date for which you wish to report job activity. Click on the date range. And as you can see, you can always go back in time and select any of these individual dates. Please keep in mind, In the event that you complete a job and for whatever reason you are not able to record it into the portal that same day, you can always go back a day in the portal to record any activity that you may have missed or any activity that you have done that you have not submitted for payment or for processing. You are never going to run into a situation where you're not able to go back into the portal to record activity. In the event that you wanted to inform us of some activity that you plan on doing in the future, you do not have the ability to do that. You can only record activity in the portal for something that you have done previously or something that you have completed for that particular day in question. Does anyone have any questions about the date range and the portal? All right. Each and every single time you click on the daily activity report, you're going to automatically be inserted one trip each and every single time. That's the default number. You have the ability to go out on 3 separate trips on a daily basis. Your trips can consist of as many jobs as you want. Your trips basically are what we use to sort and store the jobs that you complete. For an example, some of our installers choose to break up their day in multiple sections where we'll have some of you that'll go out once in the morning. We'll have some that'll go out once in the morning, once midday, and then we'll have some that go out once in the morning, once midday, and then once in the afternoon. We just provide you with the ability to do just that. You have the ability to go from your home to a few individual stops, come back home, go back out again, do the exact same thing, and so on and so forth. Does anyone have any questions about what a trip is? All right, before we begin, I'm going to read to you what a trip is, our definition here. And it says, a trip begins when you leave your home, complete jobs for Medscope customers, and ends when you return home. Some installers choose to break up their day and make several trips, while others choose to make one day-long trip to complete their jobs. Please indicate how many trips you've made on the date you've just entered. At this time, we're going to go ahead and click on the next button and begin reporting activity into the portal. It says, click Start the First Trip to begin reporting the activity of your trip. And as you can see here, the daily activity report looks very similar to the job trip planning screen. You still have the ability and functionality of sorting your jobs by all jobs, installations, service, and pickups if you have any. You also have the ability to sort your jobs from the date that they were assigned to you, from oldest to newest and newest to oldest. And you can also search for a particular consumer by their first and or last name. Now, at this time, we're going to go ahead, scroll over to the far right on that very first consumer here, which is Derek Anderson. And as you can see, we have a new tab that's called Activities. The Activities tab is the tab that you're going to probably use the most in the portal throughout your tenure here at Medscope. The Activities tab is basically where you'll be able to select each of these 5 options provided for you in regards to letting us know what you have done thus far with this particular job, whether it's complete, whether you need alternate equipment, whether that the customer wasn't home, various things of that nature. At this time, we're going to go over the Activities tab. To do that, simply click on the arrow, and you're provided with 5 options. You have delivered equipment, job completed and customer accepted, customer not home, need alternate equipment, customer refused, and can't set appointment. For the very first consumer on this particular trip, we're going to go ahead and select delivered equipment, job completed, customer accepted. It says, so you're closing this job, right? We're going to click on yes. It says, thanks for closing this job. We're going to click on OK. We can scroll down to the bottom of the screen here, and as you can see, Derek Anderson is our very first stop on our very first trip. Does anyone have any questions so far about the daily activity report? All right, we'll move along here. Now at this time, we'll go ahead and select Ignite How This time, we're going to go ahead and say that the customer refused. Now, you're going to run into a variety of situations where the customer refuses. That can be, they may refuse because the type of device that you're trying to install is not the type that they actually want. They can refuse because they don't want life alert services in their home at all. So, in the event that the customer is refusing, and they're not refusing service entirely, and they're just refusing the type of unit that you're trying to install, you would select customer refused. The very first question that it asks you is the customer requesting a different PERS type? You're going to go ahead now and select yes. Then it states, did you make a trip to the home? We're going to go ahead and say, yes, we did. It says, so you went to the customer's home, and the customer wants a PERS type that is different from what you've been approved to install, right? We'll have to look into this and get back to you. Briefly tell us what the customer wants, enter text here. Okay, at that point, all you simply have to do is state the customer refused the service because they did not want the device that we were trying to install, and inform us which type of device the consumer wants. So for the sake of this training session, I'm going to simply type in consumer wants a mobile PERS. Then you can simply click on yes. It says, okay, please stand by. The job will be placed in pending Medscope order status until we have new instructions for you. Do not return the equipment until you have confirmation from Medscope to do so. We're going to click on OK now. Scroll to the bottom of the screen, and as you can see, Ignite How is now the second job that's a part of our first trip. Okay, let's say that's not the only job that we've done. Let's say we've completed this job here now as well for Carolyn Colbert. But this time we're going to go ahead and say that the customer was not home. Anytime you leave your home and you go to a consumer's home and they are not there and you have a set appointment with them, you will be paid up front for that visit. Regardless if the job was completed or not, you will be paid for your time from leaving your home and going to that consumer's home if you have a set appointment and they are not there. So, for this particular training session, the very first question that it asks is, did you make a trip to the home? We're going to say, yes, we did. It asks, will you make another trip to the home? We're going to say, yes, we will. It says, thanks for making this stop. You're going to make another trip, right? Briefly tell us what you've done so far. For the sake of this particular training session, we're simply going to say, we'll make another appointment. Then we're going to click on yes. It says, thanks for submitting this activity. Then we're going to click on OK. Does anyone have any questions thus far about the daily activity report? All right, at this time, we're going to scroll down to the bottom of the screen, and we're going to say that these three jobs here are the only jobs that we've done so far for this first trip. And we're going to go ahead and we're ready to submit. If you refer to your training packet to page number 9, we are going to submit our jobs now. To do that, we're going to click on the big blue button here to the left that says, I'm finished reporting this trip. Then you're going to see 3 warning pop-up windows. Please keep in mind, once you say yes to all 3 of these pop-up windows, you will not be able to go back and make any additional changes. These windows are basically a warning informing you that in the event you need to go back and make changes, now will be the time to do that. So again, if you click yes all 3 times going across, you do not have the ability to make any additional edits or changes. That trip will be submitted for payment. So the screen says, are you sure you are finished with all the jobs on this trip? If you click yes, you won't be able to make any changes to the activities you've already entered for this trip. If you want to review your answers or add another job activity, click cancel. Don't worry, you won't lose any of the work you already entered. We're going to click on yes. It says great. Did you print the labels you need for any equipment returns? Remember, you won't be paid until the equipment we are expecting is returned to the office. If you don't need to print labels, click yes and we'll move on. We're going to click yes again. It says, are you ready to review the route and pay calculations for this trip? Click no cancel if you need to add additional activities to this trip. Click yes, and we'll move to the route and trip calculation section. We're going to click on yes once and the last time here. And if you scroll to the bottom of the screen, you are now presented with the option of either A, accepting the payment, or B, submitting a route revision. Now, please keep in mind, as you can see here, the system has calculated the route that they believe that you took, as well as the mileage that it was to get to each one of these individual stops, which also calculated the pay. Now, in the event that one of the following, you went more miles than the system recorded, and it was over 25 miles, or the order is different on the screen here than you actually traveled, or if you need to be reimbursed for any additional expenses. For an example, parking, tolls, any type of equipment you had to purchase to get a job completed, you would then go into the portal to submit a route revision. So again, if the mileage is reported incorrectly, if you need to be reimbursed for any reimbursable expenses, or the order the system had calculated for you is significantly different than the order that you actually went to your individual stops, that would affect pay. At this time, you would be submitting a route revision. To do that, you would simply click on the Revise button. And to submit a route revision, you have three options. You can either submit a route revision again for mileage, for reimbursable expenses, or in the event the order changed from 1 to 2 to 3 in regards to each one of your individual stops and how the system had calculated how you went from your home to each one of the individual stops. So, to submit a revision for a reimbursable expense, all you have to do is go to the particular consumer that you need to be reimbursed for. So for this particular training session, we'll select Derek Anderson here, and we're going to go ahead and say that we had $5 in tolls that we need to be reimbursed for. We will be prompted to enter in an expense reason, and then we can simply go ahead at that point and type in tolls. Click out of the screen. One second. Click out of the screen, and now you have the ability to submit. If you do not put in an expense reason, as you can see, the submit button is grayed out. So you have to inform us why you are submitting a route revision.
Can you hear me now? Yep. Okay, sorry.
Yes. Who's on the line? Who's on the line?
This is Sean. I signed on my iPad.
All right. Now, in regard to submitting a revision for a mileage change, all you simply have to do is click on the Edit button underneath the mileage, backspace to erase whatever is there, and you can type in the correct mileage that you actually traveled. Click out of the square, and as you can see, you have to provide a mileage/order change reason on why the mileage was different than what the system calculated it to be. And then the last option you have in regards to route revisions is you have the ability to change the order in which you traveled. To do that, all you're going to simply do is click on the Change Order button, select and highlight any of the individual stops, and click on the up and down arrow keys to move that particular stop and create the order in which you travel. So right now the system has it calculated as we went to, let's see here, click Cancel. It has it where we went to Derek Anderson's home first, Ignat House, and then Carolyn Colbert's. So we're going to go ahead and reverse that order. We're going to say that we went to Derek Anderson's last, Carolyn Colbert's. We went to her home first, and then Iggy Howell second. Then we're going to click on OK. And as you can see, the order has now completely changed, as well as mileage for each one of the individual stops. Then you would have to fill in any of the red highlighted squares with the reasons on why you are submitting this revision. And then click on Submit. Does anyone have any questions about route revisions thus far? All right. So we're not going to go ahead and submit this revision. We're going to just go ahead and now and click on Cancel. And we're going to accept the payment. Once you accept the payment, it says, thanks for submitting this trip. And then you simply are going to click on OK. It's going to bring you back into the job trip planning screen, and you're done. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions on how to submit a job into the portal for payment? All right. At this time, we're going to go back into the daily activity report, and we're going to record our second trip. Now, as you can see, we just click on the daily activity report, and the activities tab is no longer visible. It's not there because our first trip has already been submitted for payment. So, change the trip count from 1, which is automatically what it's defaulted to 2. We're going to click on the Edit Trips button. We're going to change the count from 1 to 2. We're going to click on OK. We're going to click Yes. And as you can see, the Activities button is now back. We're going to sort our jobs from newest to oldest. This time, we're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and select Charlotte Lawson. For this time, we're going to go ahead and say that we need alternate equipment. Now, you may run into a variety of situations on why you need alternate equipment. That can be because, 1, the device is not working properly, or 2, that particular consumer either does not have cell phone service or they do not have a landline telephone in their home. Your options in the portal will vary depending upon what type of unit that you want to go either service or install. So, the first question that it asks is, what is the problem? You have the ability at that time to select one of two things, either 1, no cell signal, or 2, unit not working, need replacement. We're going to go ahead and say that there was no cell signal. Then we're going to go ahead and simply click on Next. It says, the customer doesn't have cell service. If you haven't already, please contact tech support for assistance with troubleshooting. Click Yes to confirm that you've worked with tech support and were not able to resolve the problem and you've been instructed to return this unit. We'll arrange to get a new unit out to you shortly. Please keep in mind, if you have not talked to customer service, do not select that you need alternate equipment because they would need to troubleshoot that particular device to make sure that it's fully functional, and if it's not, then they'll inform you to send the unit back. Let's say for this particular session, we're going to say that we did talk to customer service. We're going to click on the Yes button. First question that it's going to ask is, did you make a trip or were you testing this from home? We're going to say we made a trip. It says, thanks for making this stop. You'll have to return the equipment to Medscope and we'll arrange to get a different unit out to you shortly. Are you ready to prepare the return label and return the equipment, or do you need to make changes? We're going to click on Yes again. It says you may print a return mailing label now or access this label from the job later. We're going to click on Print Later. It says thanks for submitting this activity. We're going to click on OK. We're going to scroll to the bottom of the screen here. And as you can see on our second trip, Charlotte Lawson is now there. At this time, we're going to scroll to the bottom of the screen and select one more individual. And this time it's going to be Donald Duck here. But this time we're going to say that we cannot set an appointment. Now, you would select can't set an appointment for a variety of different reasons. If the customer's in the hospital, if the customer's in rehab, if the customer has a bad telephone number, if the customer's not cooperating with you, if the customer's not answering the phone, if you're just for whatever reason unable to set an appointment and you need assistance, you would select can't set an appointment. The very first question that's going to ask you is why. Why can you set the appointment? Then you have the ability to select one of the following. The customer refused, you're unable to reach the customer, the phone number is bad, or other. For this particular training session, we're going to select other. And we're going to go ahead and say that the customer is in rehab for 2 weeks. I'm going to click on OK. It says, OK, please stand by. The job will be placed in pending Medscope order status until we have new instructions for you. Do not return equipment until you have confirmation from us to do so. If you scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see that Donald Duck is now the second stop on this particular trip, but this is not a payable visit, so it will not go into the pay calculated screen. It just will be a part of your second trip as an update. At this time, we're going to click on Finish reporting this trip. We're going to click Yes on all 3 warning windows. And we're not going to submit a revision. We're just going to automatically accept the payment because everything looks good with the mileage and payment. It says, thanks for submitting this trip. We're going to click on OK, and we're done. Does anyone have any questions about the job trip planning screen or the daily activity report? All right. At this time, we're going to go over the job payment status tab. If you have your training package, you can refer to page number 12. The job payment status tab consists of 4 parts. You have pay calculated current period, pending equipment return, pay revision pending, and the pay tab. Each and every single time you click on job payment status, you are automatically defaulted to the pay calculated current period tab. From this tab, you have the ability to click into the search bar to search for a particular consumer that you're looking for to see if you got paid for the current pay period week. Or you can scroll through multiple pages by clicking on the page identifier button here at the bottom of the screen. The pay calculated current period screen consists of the activity date in which the job was completed, the job type, the customer that you're submitting for payment, the activity that you selected in the portal for payment, and the total pay amount for each one of the individual stops that you've made. It has the pay period ending date, which is always Friday at noon Eastern Time, and it also has your total paycheck amount for the week. All of these things are updated in real time, so each and every single week, you'll be able to see how much you're getting paid in real time. Does anyone have any questions about the pay calculated current period tab? All right, the next tab we have is the pending equipment return tab. Anything that's on the pending equipment return tab will only be there until the equipment comes back into the office. So in the event you send the equipment back on Monday, we receive it on Thursday, it's logged in on Thursday before 12 noon, so that way it makes payroll. The equipment is logged in here at the office every single day of the week. There's no exceptions. And the equipment is always logged in before 12 noon so that all of our installs will be able to get paid on time every single week. So again, in the event you send out equipment to us on a Monday, it gets here on Thursday, it will be logged in on Thursday. There are no exceptions. Once that equipment is logged in, this particular job will be moved from the pending equipment return tab into your pay calculated current period. Does anyone have any questions about the pending equipment return tab?
No, sir.
Right. The next tab we have is the pay revision pending tab. The pay revision pending tab is all the jobs that you submitted with a route revision. Every single job that's on this particular screen is a payable job and will be moved into your pay calculated current period in no more than 24 to 48 hours, pending supervisor approval or denial. If this particular job is approved, you will receive the full revision amount. If it's denied, you will receive none or partial of the revision amount, but you will be paid for the work that you have completed. So again, nothing lasts on this screen for no more than 24 to 48 hours. Does anyone have any questions about the pay revision pending screen? All right. At this time, we'll move on to the final tab, which is the Paid tab. The Paid tab looks like an online banking ledger where you have the ability to go back in time to check and track any and all Medscope paychecks that you've ever received from us. Since you both are signing into the portal for the very first time, you will not be able to see any data here because there's no data to see. But moving forward and starting next week, once you are able to start submitting jobs for payment, or if you have or if you've already completed jobs this week and they've been submitted for pay, you will be able to check and see all of the paychecks and how much they are and who you were paid for, the job type, the total paycheck amount, any reference numbers in regards to your particular paycheck. This particular screen is also helpful during tax time in the event that you would like to file your 1099. Does anyone have any questions about the Paid tab? All right. At this time, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next page and the next screen, which is the message board. The message board only has one function. It basically is there to inform you that you either A, did not submit a job completely in the portal for payment, or B, you have a job that you started, but you don't need to actually do, and that's currently stuck in an idle state in the portal. So, to see what that looks like, let me give you an example here. In the event that you have some errors on your portal, when you log in for the very first time, you will see a screen that looks like this. The pop-up states you have one unfinished trip report for that particular date. That's there on the screen. It says 11/30/2015. So for right now, we're going to X out on that. If we click on the message board, you'll also see that you have an unfinished trip report, and there's something there, because you'll see the number 1 next to it, informing you that you have one unfinished trip report. To remove this unfinished trip report, you simply are going to click on it. It's going to bring you to the date in question, which is 11/30/2015. You're going to simply scroll to the bottom of the screen, and you're either going to do one of two things. You're either A, you're going to add some jobs to this particular trip that you've actually completed for this day, or B, you're simply going to just remove the trip. For this particular session, we're going to click on Remove Trip, click Yes. Click on the message board again, and now your unfinished trip report is now gone. Does anyone have any questions about the message board? All right. The last thing we're now in here that we're going to go over in the training packet is page number 16, and that is our technical support page. As you all know, our hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern Time. We have after-hour support that's available to you in the event that you need them from 5:01 until 12 midnight Eastern Time. In the event that you need to get a hold of me for anything in regard to the portal or payroll, my extension is 721. As you all know, you are paid weekly. You have the ability and the option to do one of two things. Option 1, direct deposit. Option 2, receive a paper check. Paper check, in regard to that particular option, that will be sent out on Friday, and it will be scheduled to be delivered to you the following Thursday. In regard to your direct deposit, that is submitted on a Friday as well, and will be deposited into your account by Tuesday at 10 a.m. There are no exceptions. Does anyone have any questions about anything that we've gone over today? All right. With that being said, I'd like to thank you both for attending today's training session. Your usernames and passwords will be emailed to you within the next half an hour. Have a nice day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It is